What's up everyone and welcome to this video where I share my thoughts on the Classic WoW news given to us at Blizzcon. I have notes here, a few points, but everything is off script and so there might be some ranting, I don't know. The first point I guess we look at is the launch window, which is the, they said summer of 2019. Obviously that's summer in the United States, obviously depending on which region you live in Australia it's winter, but pretty much mid 2019, from June to August is the time frame. It's a good time frame. It's about where I predicted it would be. I feel like November would have been more thematic, you know, the 15th anniversary, but I still feel like they can still get that thematic, like, sort of, they can still do the whole 15th anniversary thing. Maybe they would have an event in game. That would be kind of cool, like 14th of November, I think is when it came out. I'm 90% probably wrong, but, you know, November-ish. They might have a really cool in-game event, denoting the 15th anniversary. I think they kind of wanted to get this game out as fast as possible while not rushing and while not trying to leave any stone unturned. I think that's important. For which month I predicted it's going to come out on all depends on the testing. If they even have a testing phase, if they have an open beta, I think that will really tell us when it's going to come out. Mostly, like, I feel like a 2-month testing phase would be optimal. I feel like 2 months is more than enough time for the average, you know, maybe 4-hour-a-day player, even 3-hour-a-day player to level to 60, while still giving the hardcore players and like semi-hardcore enough time to level to 60, do all the dungeons, do all the endgame dungeons, get all their pre-raid best in slot, and even do a Nixia and Molten Core as well, maybe a few times. Why I'm saying 2 months and not like 3-4 months is because I feel like if you're allowing hardcore players to raid for, let's say, I don't know, 2.5 months, 2 months, I feel like everyone's going to come out with guides. Everyone's going to come out with like these how-to guides on doing the raids, and it's going to kind of destroy, like, it's going to make it irrelevant on release, because I feel like, I'm not saying Molten Core is difficult and it needs to be, and like, it needs to be preserved, no guides for it to be difficult. I just think that the average player, I feel like the average player is not going to know what the fuck they're doing. You look at private server players, but you might get, like, I don't know, I don't really know the total private server community that's going to play on Classic. I don't know those numbers. Let's say 100,000 total private server players out of who knows how many millions are going to be playing on launch. The majority are going to be people who have never played Classic WoW or Vanilla WoW, haven't played since Vanilla WoW, or they've been, you know, playing on the private servers. Maybe they just leveled to 60, then they quit, or maybe they did a few raids, kind of get some experience, but they don't really have a large amount of experience as those people who play all the time, every day, every private server, and their experience. So I feel like the majority of people are going to be quite noobish, which is good because it's going to capture, at least for the average player, the sort of vanilla experience where everything's sort of new, or everything is like new again. I think that's really going to help, while still allowing the hardcore players to really push forward. Kind of lost my train of thought then. 2 months of test phasing should be a-okay. I think they shouldn't go any further than that. Obviously, the more the merrier. Like, the longer they have to play, the more bugs they will find. But I still feel like allowing hardcore players to just annihilate Molten Core for multiple months on end probably isn't the best thing for the launch of the game, and for further on when they're going to release guides, and then the casual players are going to get the guides, and then casual players are going to be, you know, chewing through Molten Core pretty easily. So, okay, so that's pretty much that. That's my rant on the testing phase and how long it should be. How that's going to affect the launch is, and the launch date is, if they do a testing phase and they find a shit ton of bugs, I think they're going to push it to August. But if everything's pretty solid and everything looks really well, then I guess they could release it late June, early June. I'm predicting July because I think there will be some bugs, some small details that obviously hardcore private server players are gonna pick up, and these really serious hashtag no changes, and they see every detail. I think July. I think July is going to be where it's at, and that's pretty much my thoughts on the launch window. Nothing too serious. The second point I have is the big boy himself. The big point that has been really dividing the community, which is sharding. Sharding, I'll start with my own personal opinion. I think sharding as a concept is the worst thing to have happened ever. But sharding at the launch of Classic is an unfortunate, necessary evil. It's hard to really give my honest opinion, mostly because it's really in the middle. It's really grey. But the whole point, it's hard because it's a sort of a seesaw point, in that one side, everyone is on one side or the other. And then I feel like there's just not a lot of people in the middle. So either you love it and you think sharding is absolutely, sharding for life, or you're absolutely against it and you're never going to play Classic WoW because sharding was in for a week or something. I think I'm okay with it as long as it's only in for a maximum of 1 week for the large mega servers. I don't know, they haven't, at least I haven't seen a post or any kind of answering of the server cap question. I think they're still trying to figure it out themselves, how much they can handle, whether or not they should go Blizz-like, or private server mega servers, or somewhere in the middle, or they should kind of mix and match. I'll probably talk about mix and matching soon, since I haven't seen it around a lot, and I kind of want to get the idea out there. I'm okay with sharding as long as it is for the first week, nothing more. If it goes longer than a week, we're gonna have problems. But I think it does depend on the server cap. If every server is Blizz-like, 2.5, 3K, whatever it was, no sharding, absolutely not necessary. And I think they probably know that, which means it's probably not Blizz-like. If they go up to, I feel like the cutoff point where they should add sharding is maybe 6K. Anything north of 6K, I think sharding. But it's more of a, after 6K, I think it's more of a gradient then, where maybe for 1 day, if the server cap is 7K and the servers are full up, maybe sharding for 1 day, 24 hours shard, and then reduce it. If it's like 12K cap and the servers are full, maybe 4 or 5 days, and if they're 15, whatever, maybe a week, at most a week, because there's going to be a shit ton of congestion. People are saying that sharding is not, to the Classic experience. I agree, but neither was 10K mega servers, and if they're going to go with that, then that's a change, and that's not an authentic vanilla experience either. So there's a shit ton of gray area, but everyone is dividing themselves onto one end or the other of the spectrum. And I think one week at the very most, they should really monitor it in real time instead of just being like 1 week and then automatically reduce sharding. I feel like if there aren't as many people as they first expected, then they could reduce the amount of time or even eliminate it entirely. But anything over a week, I think we have a problem. There have been some cool and interesting ideas where they can reduce congestion without sharding. And one of these ideas I got, I didn't think of it, but I saw it, was have the same servers I don't really know how many servers there were at launch, but have whatever amount of servers you can handle. And then what you can do is have like a kind of like pseudo shard servers, in that you look at, like, if you have like Kel'Thuzad server, and then you have Kel'Thuzad server 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then so it's like a pseudo shard, but there is no actual sharding where you want to see your friends, but you can't see your friends because they're in a different shard. I think that's a cool idea, because I think the only downside to kind of Blizz-like 3K servers is that there is going to be a huge drop-off. I do predict a huge drop-off early on, huge spike, gradual drop-off until there's an evening out. And this kind of eliminates the idea of dead servers. So if you have 3K and then 50% of the server leaves because they're all like retail players, they just wanted to see what Classic was about. They got to level 10, they said they gave up, and then you're left with like 15K, and then you only have like 500 of those are active who play every day. Another idea I have that I don't want to say I came up with it, but I haven't seen it anywhere else. I'm sure there have been a lot of people who have thought of the same thing. I'm sure there's posts. I don't check the forums, so I'm sure that someone has come up with the same idea. But what I'm thinking is let people make their own bed and let them sleep in it, right? So there's like if you know that phrase, kind of know what I'll be talking about. In that, hypothetically, let's say they have 100 servers. Let's just to keep it to NA or something. They have 100 servers, and this covers the whole spectrum of what people want. Some people want Blizz-like because Blizz-like server population because smaller communities, reputation is a little bit more important. You see the same people, you know who everyone is, you know the guilds, you know everyone in the guilds. And some people want these big mega servers, 15K, 10K, whatever, because world PvP is humongous on these 10K servers. Like, world PvP is like, STV is, it's so AIDS, but in kind of a good way. If you really enjoy these big servers, then STV is AIDS in the good sense. In that you make these bad situations, like, you can kind of see the light in the dark, in that, yeah, you're getting ganked by a group of Horde or Alliance, but the fact that you are getting ganked means there is a thriving community, and that people, not everyone is all friendly. There's actually some faction animosity, which is what vanilla world PvP and PvP itself was really all about. So I think this idea covers all the spectrums, and the idea is 100 servers, hypothetically, obviously they could have 200, 150, whatever, 100 servers, have 10 of those servers be like 10K, 12K, whatever they can handle, like the maximum amount of a population that they can handle, and then maybe have maybe 30 other servers be like 7K, maybe 8K, have another 30 or maybe 40 or something, or let's say 30 be maybe 5K, and then have the last 30 be 3K. And then obviously in the menu you clearly display what servers have what pop cap. That way people who join these mega servers and can't kill kobolds for 3 hours, they know what they're getting into, and they sign up for it. Obviously they can just delete their character, or they can swap servers if they really want to, but by the time you get to like STV or what's another, like Burning Steps or Searing Gorge, those are pretty big PvP spots. By the time you realize that you can't do your quests because you're getting ganked by raids of enemy factions, but you're done at that point. Unless you really want to waste like a month of progress of leveling because you're getting ganked by a horde or alliance. And then for the people who want a big community, but not too big, they still want to do their quests, they still want that sort of small community feel, I guess, if you understand me, and that they still kind of understand, well, not that they understand, but they do see people over and over again, they do establish reputation and an in-game community, and people have, there is like that big raiding guild who is doing, you know, like AQ, and they've cleared Cthulhu, and they're doing Nax, and you know, they're the top echelon of raiding guilds on your server. You still want those. Then some people maybe want a little bit lower, the 5k. I'm probably more of a 5k person myself, having leveled on a 14k server. It can be very, very AIDS. It is really, really cool. The spectacle, it's all about that spectacle. That spectacle is really, really cool. Seeing 14,000 people on the same server, seeing 100 people all questing in the same area, it's really, really cool to look at. But when you really get to the nitty gritty, when you actually start doing your quests, you realize that it takes you an hour to do a single quest, and you've got 4 more left to do before you really want to head back into like Red Ridge, and or head back into whatever, Lakeshire, and hand in your quests. And it's going to take you all day to do a single like chain of quests. It can be quite frustrating, quite AIDS to some people. Some people love it, some people don't love it. That's why I think this whole spectrum of server caps might be a great way of going about it. That way you don't even need sharding, because people who want the large servers, that's what they want, that's what they're expecting, and like, they want these large servers. It's not like everyone gets 10k no matter what you want, right? Everyone gets 10k, so sharding needs to kind of work with everyone. No, I think that this whole spectrum of server caps is probably the best solution for everyone, but without really changing vanilla WoW as it was and how it should be, because it's purely on the back end. And if anything, it will help the community more, because everyone's going to get what they want without really complicating, without really changing too much. Everyone's going to get what they want. People who want to play on a low cap will do so, and people who want to play on a high cap will do so. So I think those 2 ideas are the two good ideas to kill sharding. If they are really sticking to their guns and really are adamant about sharding, because they're gonna have like, every server is going to be a large server, 10k, 8k, whatever, then my only point is that they need to get rid of sharding as soon as possible, as soon as it is absolutely possible, because I do believe sharding is one of the worst things you could possibly have, especially for vanilla or for classic. It completely kills the feel, the immersion, the whole community building. You know, if you're playing with your friends but you can't see them, it completely takes you out of the world and out of having fun. So if it's absolutely necessary, then I just say, like, get rid of it as soon as humanly possible. And that's pretty much my opinions on sharding. I don't like it, but I'm willing to live with it if they don't abuse it. And when I say they, I mean Blizzard. If they say, you know, it's going to be in there for a few weeks, okay, I would okay. But if they go beyond what is necessary, we have a huge problem. I don't think they will, though. I think because the whole Classic team, I think, is very passionate. Even Ian himself seems very passionate about the project, and he actually wants people to relive what they want to relive when it comes to Classic. Maybe he himself will be a hardcore raider again. I don't know. Maybe he'll push for his second Scarab Lord. But either he's really passionate or he's just saying what people want to hear. It's hard to tell the difference, but I'm erring on the side of he's passionate and the team is passionate, and they are as much as no changes as we are, minus the things that they kind of have to do, like the Blizzard support, the what are some other changes that they had to make, like pretty much just back end stuff, like the or like the something that I saw on the demo was the enemy nameplates. Like if they legit can't change it, I understand. Nameplates at the beginning kind of threw me off, but I realized that eventually I'm not going to really care. Eventually I'll just I won't care. But something I will care about is that battle text font. I do not like the new battle text. The old battle text, in my opinion, and this is not like, oh, no changes, whatever. I legit think the old battle text is superior. And I don't really have a battle text point on my list here, but ranting about the battle text and why the old battle text is way better is because in the new battle text, I never see when I get crits. Ever. And I barely see if I deal any damage. Like, in BFA, I couldn't tell you how much damage I'm doing on my Frostbolt. Right? And crits, I don't even notice them. But the old battle text, the crits were so, they were so amazing because the text, it fucking exploded onto the screen. It hung there for a second and then it faded away. And then when you do like a cone of cold into 5 enemies and they're all crits and they all just explode on the screen, stacking on top of one another. It's a very superior system. I feel like the new system is very Diablo-esque, which I don't like. Very action RPG, which I don't like. I'm trying to summarize my ideas of sharding. To summarize the ideas, I guess I'm okay with it in an extremely limited capacity. I'm not one of those people who say that I'm not going to play the game if they have sharding. I'm not one of those people. I think I understand, because I'm trying to really understand where they're coming from. I'm trying to appreciate that they don't want sharding, but they think it is an absolute necessity. And that's the kind of mindset I've tried to adopt in my own thinking, trying to see it from the other person's perspective. I think it's very powerful. And I think there is a dehumanizing aspect as well. People on the internet don't really see these developers as people who want to do their best. They see them as tools to get what they want. And I think people really lose that humanizing aspect, that these developers are people as well. I mean, if they make mistakes, I mean, could you have done better? Maybe not. I mean, it's hard to say. We still got 9 months of questions left to ask and to be answered. So I think complaining about the future of Classic WoW is a bit premature, and I think we should hold off until much closer to the release date. Yes, to summarize my ideas, I'm okay with sharding in a very limited capacity. But I think they should adopt a different system. Instead of having every server be huge, 10k, whatever they're trying to go, whatever they plan on doing, instead of doing that, adopt one of the other 2 systems that I spoke about before, in that have these pseudo shards where you have kind of servers within servers, and then that solves the merging problem, where if server population dies, then what they do is they just merge the mini servers into whatever feels right. And this is the only problem, legitimately the only problem with merging servers that I have found is duplicate names and duplicate guild names. However, with this mini server system that I think they should adopt is don't allow duplicate player names and guild names within the larger server, which means that if you're on like Kel'Thuzad server 1 and you have a player name, you can't duplicate that player name or guild name on Kel'Thuzad server 2. So should server 1 and 2 have to be merged, there's literally no problem there. There's no technical problem. And I think that's the best thing that they could do, or adopt a sort of make your own bed and then sleep in it system that I said before, in that have a whole spectrum of server caps among many different servers. And if people want to play on 10k servers, allow them to do so. If they want to play on 3k servers, allow them to do so, and a few servers in between. I think those two ideas are really good. But if you have a better idea, please leave it in the comments. I love to hear ideas. I think more ideas is better in every single way. They don't have to be objectively good ideas, but maybe just more ideas, more better, in my opinion. So that's sharding, and why it could be a necessary evil. Yeah, time to move on. Move on to another point of contention that it was negatively seen, is that debuff limits. This is more of a gray area than I would like to imagine, in that if I don't hate 16 debuff limit, a 16 debuff limit. I don't hate it. I just don't think that it's the best thing, especially for the early game. Obviously, like Molten Core, Onyxia, and even to some points BWL, I think like 8 debuff slots is that's what the raids were tuned for. I mean, some things that have been said and thrown around is that they up it to 16 and then they just increase the difficulty. They just up the numbers, the damage, the health of all the raids. I don't like that, because it's really complicating things. Instead of having no changes, now you've made 2 changes, right? So it's kind of like you're doubling down. If you make one change, you have to make more changes to accommodate it. So I'm definitely no changes within limits. I'm not saying like completely no changes, everything should be as it was back then. I think there are some things that kind of need to be changed, obviously on the back end, mostly. But debuff limit is something that I think they need to relook at. I think if they're just kind of playing with the idea of 16, but they haven't really solidified the idea to themselves, I think that's good. If they're kind of just playing around with other ideas, but if they were able to take debuff limits from however many you could have in Legion, I think it was like infinite, but whatever, or 255, I think Ian said. If you could take it from 255 to 16, why can't you take it to 8? Like, Ian was up on stage, he said it was just like, it was a technical limitation, and it was a bad design choice. Bad design choice, I agree. Technical limitation, okay. However, it was the game. It was the game. It's just how it was. Technical limitation or no. I don't think they should change it. I feel like, because like I said before, like they're gonna have to change boss values. Either that, or they're going to make Onyxia and Molten Core even easier than they actually were. I'm not saying Molten Core and Onyxia. I mean, Onyxia is just like, she's the easiest. It's a very, like, Onyxia is a very casual, friendly raid. Molten Core, yes, it's easy, but as I said before, since I believe the majority of players are going to be new to Classic or haven't played since Vanilla, they're not really going to be on the up and up with the mechanics, and not even just the mechanics of the boss, but even Trash have mechanics like, like Lava Surger, and things like that, like can be pretty terrifying if you don't have a coordinated group who know what they're doing. But I reckon debuff limits are more of a boss thing, so it's not like a full raid thing. Like, who cares about Trash? What I don't understand is if they really can't go down to 8 debuffs, If for some reason they can't reduce it by half, I will understand. I'll be like, okay, I don't like it, but I mean, if they can't do it, then they can't do it, right? I mean, you're just gonna have to live with it. But if they can, I don't see why they shouldn't. I really don't see. If from an outsider view, it seems like such a small change. Such a small change that it seems like have 8 debuff slots available during Elixir, Molten Core, BWL, and then when ZG comes out, up to 16. It doesn't really seem like that big of a thing. Maybe it is. Maybe everyone is correct in that it isn't a big thing. Really, the summary of the point is, if they can't reduce it to 8, like on a technical standpoint, which would seem ironic because they couldn't increase it more than 8, and it'd be kind of weird if they couldn't get it back down to 8 for some reason. That'd be very ironic. If they really can't get it back down to 8 for technical reasons, I would understand, but I think there needs to be a bit better communication. I'll talk about communication a little bit later, I'm sure, and why we're going to get a lot more questions answered than we have, since BlizzCon of last year. If they can't reduce it down to 8, okay, I'll live with it. I don't want it, but I'll live with it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not going to, make Molten Core something you can do in 20 minutes. If they don't have itemized itemization, like the progression, then people will be doing Molten Core in half an hour. Absolutely. But, you're not going to be doing Molten Core in half an hour if you have 8 extra debuff slots, because those extra 8, I'm not too privy on every single class and their ability, but Shadow Priests, maybe Deep Wounds isn't going to be such a big thing anymore. But really, I can't really think of more things. Or maybe Warlock Dots are allowed to be up. I'm not really privy to that kind of information. I'm not sure what's allowed and what isn't allowed from a raiding guild standpoint. Obviously everything's allowed, but if you're trying to really min-max, trying to get as much efficiency out of the debuffs as possible, I'm not really sure what's allowed and what isn't allowed outside of Curse of Elements, Sunder Armor, what else, Hunter's Mark, anything that does Winter's Chill as well, that's supposed to be up there, things like that. If they can't reduce it to 8 on a technical standpoint, I understand, but if they can, then that's what they should do, and then change it when ZG comes out. So that's my ideas of debuff limits.